Really what I'm going to say tonight is that we face a crisis in the protection of conscience in relation to healthcare, a crisis that can spread beyond abortion into all sorts of areas of healthcare, and beyond healthcare into a whole variety of contexts of conscience, and we have to do something. I think we all understand the nature of a right to conscience. I'm not going to pursue that terribly philosophically. We know that it's recognised in all the basic human rights instruments. We know it's closely related to religion, although I would make the point that the right to conscience goes well beyond the right to religion, and people who are entirely non-religious have a conscience and have a right to that conscience to be protected. It's more than mere opinion. The reality is that the right to conscience is the right not to be constrained against your moral precepts, and it's worth asking and remembering the basis of that right. The basis of that right is the right of every person to an individual personality, because if a person cannot act on their basic moral precepts, they are not a person. A person who does not have a right to conscience has been denied their right to individuality. It is a matter of great shame to me that my home state is such a negative exemplar in this respect, because it is beyond any question that Section 8, in particular of the Abortion Law Reform Bill, is fundamentally opposed in any philosophical, legal or internationally legal sense to freedom of conscience. I think the vital point here is that that concern about conscience and individuality goes well beyond being a Catholic. It goes well beyond being religious. It goes well beyond the issue of abortion. This is not primarily a Catholic issue or a religious issue, and fundamentally, and I'll come back to this, it is not an issue about abortion. This is an issue about conscience. And because it's an issue about conscience, it is infinitely generalisable. The precedent comprised in this legislation can be used, and I use the next word consciously, rape the conscience of anybody on anything. I've never been faced with something like this. I've never been faced with a law that required me to breach my conscience. I mean, I think it really calls all of us to think, gee, what would we do if we were faced with the might of state against our conscience? It is appallingly drafted technically. You know, if I was going to draft a law for abortion, I could do a hell of a lot better than this. You would normally assume that a section like this was never intended to pass, that it was either put in there, as was said, as a bargaining chip, or in a symbolic way to rub the noses of opponents in it. And you would certainly assume that it was never intended to be enforced, that once it was on the books, it would be largely ignored. This bad legislation was designed to create a problem. That's the reality, and that's what we're dealing with. It's the intended effect. This is deliberately coercive. It is deliberately symbolic of a victory in a particular respect, and it is indeed a fundamental issue of human rights. Is that this really was meant to be a touchstone of a symbolic victory over conservative forces. It is set there like a statue. This situation is dire. Not only have I talked about the unclarity of the legislation, not only could I talk about the malice of this legislation, but that is reflected in what we now begin to see in terms of the application of the legislation. The same lack of concern for conscience, the same deliberate confusion about terms, and the same ideological determination in the application of the legislation of the two doctors as occurred in the formulation of the legislation. And the crucial question is, what the hell do we do now?